My presentation today is about the #1 inhibitor to success on a really good data ecosystem modernization project. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what holds you back from not just an IT perspective, because I know Elliot's touched on that a little bit as well, but really what holds you back from an organizational perspective. And that #1 inhibitor, and it's kind of based on not only our own experience at Caserta, but also a lot of research has been done on the same topic. So let me just jump right in. I'm going to start by level setting us on modernization, just to make sure we're all on the same page. When I think modernization and at Caserta, we think about it, often it's a cloud first piece. So people are working towards moving to the cloud, but that's one piece of modernization. For us, it's also about standardization, and it's about building out a platform for your data that is really future-proof. So you've got lots of scalability, you're using modern technologies, obviously. So from an IT perspective, we find that super exciting, right? Been in this world a long time. This is what we love to do. So what is IT here when you talk about a modernization project? They're all fired up. We're going to retool. We've got new technologies, some cloud first. This is going to be good for my career, great projects, new training. What is the business here? Not quite the same level of enthusiasm. So what happens? They hear we're going to have some changes. It's going to be expensive. This is risky. I've got new things to learn. I've got to go to training. Not the same. So before you even get going on your modernization project, you've got this chasm that's already started between business and IT in many organizations, not everywhere, of course, but it starts right there. You've got on one side heartful enthusiasm, and then a little bit of skepticism coming from your business partners there. So what's this behind all this? Let's talk about it. The business, they've got a point. There's a reason for their skepticism. For a lot of them, because the success rates on data projects, unfortunately, are pretty dismal. They fail at an unprecedented rate. And even Gartner had to redo their study. They'd done a study in 2016 and said that there were 65% were unsuccessful. And then they came back in 2019 and said probably closer to 80% are unsuccessful. Well, that's a pretty big number. And by success, Gartner was clear. So their definition was that there was not an improved business outcome coming from analytics. So that's an important piece. That's kind of where I'm going to focus today, is on that business element of it today. So we've got to deal with this, right? It's a real thing from an IT perspective. We have a responsibility to make sure that our projects are successful to the enterprise, not just from an IT perspective. So you can probably guess it, but that #1 inhibitor, what are we looking at here? It is a lack of adoption by the business community. So how do we deal with this? This is a pretty big deal, because you can have the best modern ecosystem for your data. It could be in the cloud. You've got great integrations. You've got all the best tools. You're MI and AI enabled. It's all there. And if nobody's using it, it's just not a success. So that's what we're going to tackle today. I don't know about you guys, but I've been around a bit. So in the 2000s, it was the heyday of data warehousing projects. Everybody had theirs moving. And the mantra then, at least in a couple organizations I was associated with, was if we build it, that warehouse, they will come. We in IT, we got this. We're going to show them, pull all this great organizational data together, all the transactional data into one big box, and hand it over to the business, and they will love it. Okay, we all know what happened. Those of us not in Hollywood, it didn't work out that way. They didn't come. I had a group I worked with in this time frame in the 2000s, and I came in at the tail end of the effort. But the IT team had built a really nice data warehouse platform. It was modern at the time. Now we call it vintage, but it was good. And they put a new BI tool on the front of it, and it had the data that two of their particular operational departments really, really needed. And they were pretty fired up, very excited about it. But it didn't work. It was a colossal failure. It was a multi-million-dollar endeavor, shiny new tool built, sitting in a closet, collecting dust, and yet still cost them tens of thousands a year to keep it rolling through. So how do we all avoid this, right? All of us have our careers somehow built into this data world that we need to be successful. So what do? Why are so many people reluctant to switch to a new data platform? Three main reasons. If you peel back that onion on data adoption, Where's that reluctance? Three big pieces. So one is a lack of trust. And we're going to talk about each of these three items as we walk through this. There's a lack of trust from the business perspective into IT for a variety of reasons. There's fear. There's fear of change, fear of the unknown. And then there are vague benefits. A lot of people don't really know, what am I getting from this? And when they hear I get more data, great. What more data? It's going to be better data. Better how? Better for me, better for you, better quality? Not really sure. So those vague benefits don't get business people with their own objectives and their own vision of their departments and their own annual bonuses that they're working towards fired up if they don't know what's in it for me. And there's a term that psychologists call this organizational inertia, which is basically the organization's inability or lack of interest in moving forward, that they're comfortable in this stagnant place that they're in. So how do we overcome that? Well, we got to attack these three things that are hurting the adoption. So let's start on trust. It's my favorite one. Lack of trust. More often than not, we've all seen it, the lack of trust stems from history. And it's not always yours, but it's certainly your business partners, and it's their perception. Either in their current organization or in their previous life, they have had issues with a data project coming to fruition or impacting them, missing expectations, whatever it may be, but there's a reason that they're holding back on this trust piece. So in your organization, you can look at yourself. Do we have data quality issues today? And so there's a fear that those will persist or get worse. Do we have missed SLAs? Are we continually just letting the business down in little bits every day? Is it a past project that was touted, highly marketed, and then failed? Figure it out. So the challenge is often it's kind of one of those subtle pieces, this lack of trust, a little passive aggressive potentially. So what does it look like in your organization? I saw it clearly a few years back in one team. The IT team was working closely with their business partners. They'd set up this perfect organization. They had liaisons who were kind of portfolio managers that were the connection between the IT efforts and the business, to understand what the business was doing, their goals, their objectives, and then also communicate back to the business what IT was working on. It was perfect, this nice line of communication. And IT was working closely, this team I was associated with marketing. Great, the teams got along, they met weekly, they were working on vision, everyone's happy, drinks together after work, rah, rah. And then one day, the IT team gets a call and from the purchasing department and says, did you know that marketing has just purchased this tool? Okay, well, marketing can go out and purchase a tool. They have their budgets and they're right. Well, the tool they bought was going to process data and provide insights to the marketing team in a very specific niche. There was a good reason for what they wanted to do, but the IT team was working on a project to do the same thing. But now marketing's come in, partnered up with an outside vendor to do this. Why? When it came down to it and you peel back what the problem was, the head of marketing didn't trust that IT had the skill set and could actually deliver on what they're working on in the time frame they committed. And the vendor, they felt they could trust. So what does trust look like? Sometimes it's the business working around you. It's finding out late in the game that they partnered with somebody. It's finding out after the fact that they partnered with somebody. So you got to look around because you'll rarely walk to a meeting and be told, I don't trust you. So how do you find it? And then most importantly now, goodness, what do we do about it? Obviously, you got to earn the trust back. Easier said than done. One of the things that I worked on quite a bit in my career actually is this liaison piece between the business and IT. And a lot of it is about, it's about trust. It's based there. And the only way to enable trust from the consumer perspective, so your business partners into IT, is to let them in on what's happening. I attended a town hall meeting for a client years back, and the senior vice president of one of the functional areas told everybody there that his challenge with IT, he says this publicly, and this is in front of the entire headquarters. The problem with IT is that you tell them what you want to do, and then they disappear for 6 or 8 months into their little black box, and then they pop back out with something that isn't what you were looking for, or you've changed your mind what you want. And everyone laughed, ha, ha, ha. but it struck a chord, and he was right. So IT had become in this organization a black box. So building trust, you have to clear it up. You have to be transparent. And that's one piece. So great. So now the business knows what you're working on, what your project plan looks like, but now you have to make sure it's addressing their needs. So if they're not trusting that you can deliver what they need, bring them into the process. Understand what it is they're looking for. Be a part of their use case development. Document the requirements well. And this is really key in the data world. Data projects can't just have user acceptance criteria. There's a step ahead of that. And that's the data validation piece. And that is so critical to data trust. If you want them to trust the data, you can't hand it out at the end when you're testing functionality. There's a process in the middle of that development effort where the business partners, usually analysts, and the IT team need to validate the data, your historical data, your ongoing data. You've got to look at it in different ways. We have from the right market segment. And then also, what is your acceptance criteria on data? Does it have to match to the penny? Well, if you're a finance institution, yes, it does have to match to the penny. Does it have to match, you be correct, directionally correct? Does my history have to be the same? Understanding all of those pieces up front about what your consumers need to accept the data is critical, because that will change the way that you're doing your development work. So that's key. It's also about being just open. On the IT side, the other things you can do, even if you've got a great project plan in place, make sure your team's well trained. So upskill the team. Often modernization projects have new technologies in place, and a lot of the IT team kind of learns on the job, or they go to a one-day class. Great. Make sure you're properly training them. And that's one piece to it. So now you have a team that's trained, newly trained on a new technology for you. It's not enough, and business knows this. Experience is everything. So at this point, make sure when it makes sense, if you've got these new technologies, partner with the solution provider, partner with another group who, an outside group that has lots of those skills in-house. So another consulting group, bring them in, bring the solution provider with the technology, someone who's got experience. And then stay flexible. Are things changing as you go? Is your technology not working? You know, we all have heard about fail fast. Is your business changing what their priorities are? Then work on those as well. So that's about earning back the trust. Let's talk about the second piece. So we talked that there are three parts to data adoption challenges with it. So trust was one. Fear is the second one. Fear of change is probably the number one piece to that. At Caserta, one of the things we work on with our clients is understanding the personas who are going to be taking advantage of the new data platform, so out in the business. I've got three of them listed here: executives, managers, we'll call them manager, director level, and then analysts. So the reason we tackle each of these differently is that there are different reasons why individuals are hesitant to change, why they are part of that organizational inertia. Executives are one of my favorites to work with, and they're often the quietest, right? So we all know you're rarely going to sit in a meeting and hear from the CFO or the chief operations officer that they're afraid of new technology. But if they've been in this organization for a long time, if they've grown up not in this world and not relied on technology 100% of their time, having this new platform come in and be touted as the silver bullet to answer everything, and there's new technologies, they know what comes with that. One, an expectation they have to learn a new tool. And let's face it, not everybody likes to learn new tools. And also, the new tool may just give you a different answer than you've been working with for the last 15 years, because you've been going on your gut. So there's usually a little hesitancy from this. And they really are a group that need to be addressed. So that's one of my groups. Directors, managers, their issues are typically around, again, new technologies coming in, and a little bit of angst about whether or not, am I supposed to be an ML expert? Do I need to be able to lead a team of data scientists? Because I've never been data science school. So little job security that maybe they're not the right guy anymore in this modern technology space. So they need to be dealt with. And an analyst, often their fear, they can typically be the ones who actually love the change, but their fear of change sometimes comes down to just workload. They're just afraid that so much is going to get dumped on them, and the expectation to explain things, to become the experts, So lots to work with those groups. So again, that's what fear looks like in your organization. What do you do about it? The only thing you can do, the only thing is face it. You got to talk to your groups, figure it out. And again, they're not going to say, I'm afraid, but figure out what's holding them back. Is it this technology piece? And one of the simple things, I have this down at the bottom, is training by persona. When you're building out a new data ecosystem and you know you're going to have new technologies that your business partners will need to be aware of, training for an executive in that process is nowhere near the same as what training for an analyst looks like. So maybe an executive, you don't even call it training. Let's just call it maybe something more like awareness or an explanation of the new platform. Lots of things you can do there that are not about training for an executive. Mid-level managers, directors, and then your analysts definitely need that hands-on, fingers to keyboard, understand the technology, get in, get comfortable. The more people know about their new environment, the more likely they are to be able to kind of get on board with it and accept this new world that they're moving into. It's not easy. And facing that fear again, you've got to figure out where it is and understand that it's often founded in reality. Excuse me. So when you have a group that's afraid of the change that's coming at them, it may just be because the last time there was a big change, it was a problem for them. So you need to work through those pieces. That's fear. So that was number 2. The third item, holding back from a data adoption perspective, is that classic, what's in it for me? If the benefits of this new ecosystem, this new modern platform you have for your data are vague to the business, you will struggle to get them to jump on board. Right? It comes back to that first slide we looked at, that lack of enthusiasm. So, excuse me. So what do you need to do? IT, you are responsible for helping people find that tangible link between the ecosystem modernization effort that you're working on and the individuals in the business. So for them, how will this platform specifically impact them, their team, their career, their own success for their own vision for their group, even their annual bonus? Figure these things out. These are the things that make people get on board if they feel like there's a real benefit to them. And the other thing you're still tackling is this organizational inertia. And people, when they've gotten used to getting data in a certain way, they have a way of working, they're comfortable with it. Why would they change? If they don't see something in it for them specifically, they'll go along because that's what they have to do for a job, but they're not enthusiastic about it. And they're not going to be individuals who are going to help push this forward, change the momentum, change the mood about a project even. It's really, really key. So what do? Your job in IT, you got to connect the dots. You got to connect it for them. Your business partners are smart, right? They know their world, but they need to know that you understand their world and that your solution specifically and with very concrete facts will help them. So what does that look like? 1, figure out who else is doing this. This really helps a lot of people accept change. If they understand that their peers in the organization are using the new platform, that always helps. If they understand that their competitors are already doing this, or another group, another industry is starting in this direction, that social influence helps most people feel like they want to carry along, that they're not on the bleeding edge of this, right? Bleeding edge is for the technologists. Industry leaders want to be on the leading edge and not necessarily deep followers. So to see another competitor is heading this direction, has already started, has made a benefit, and they want to jump on board, catch up, get ahead, keep up, whatever it may be. So got to get it done. One of the big ways is getting to those specifics. So you know your new platform is going to be able to deliver more data out of your source system than you've been able to do before. Okay, what new data? Great, you can articulate that, but then meet with the business. What are they going to do with it? Help them build their own business case for what they can do with this new data. And that's what's going to help them, again, see the actual benefit as it's coming. Now, the last piece I want to talk about is you're trying to connect these dots and get your consumers on board, enthusiastic about this. You need them to find your influencers. So they can look like anything. Sometimes it's the head of marketing who's all on board. She sees the benefits. She knows where this can take them. She talks about her KPIs, talks about how it affects her department's vision. She sees how the animals can get more training. It's good for them in their careers, and articulates all this. Fantastic. That doesn't always happen. So what do you do besides just having the senior level individuals? I worked at a healthcare organization. Same thing, doing an ecosystem change with their data. Partway through, and they're trudging through the depths of it, right? They have a really nice technology solution. They've got new integration pieces in place. They're getting their data ready for the researchers, the ones who need it. So structured in a way that it can be used for research. They're going to do some data science projects off of it, create some models. And then they met with, IT group met with one of the researchers in this group, quiet guy, and he explained the project he was working on. And the goal of the project, the hypothesis that they were testing out, was for a very specific disease. They had a theory on a way that they could change the course of treatment that would improve outcomes for this patient set. But like anything in the medical world, they need to do some research before the clinicians are going to jump on board and start to change the course of treatment. That was, working, but not working great. So the researcher sat down and explained what he needed from the data. IT team made sure it was structured in the way that he could build out his models. And then this quiet guy just started to talk amongst his peers, so other researchers and some of the clinicians that they worked with, and explained how he was so excited about this new data platform that was coming and what he would do with it, and what other pieces of data he was going to be able to now pull into his research and add to the model, and how that would enable them to more quickly come up with an answer to this hypothesis that yay or nay is going to have an influence. So a very unlikely evangelist. I think he's someone who would be quite happy sitting in his cubicle day after day with very little interaction besides his other researchers. I mean, super quiet, but he became this silent wave across the business community about the power of this. And then as the data was released to him, they were the first release, and he built his model and started the excitement that this one guy had, and with the other researchers, then they also wanted it. And so this momentum built. And then as we're building momentum and the IT is developing more data sets and there's more releases and more models being built by other researchers, this one little project is moving forward to the point where they're talking about being able to publish something and coming up with ideas for changing their course of treatment. And there's excitement from clinicians. And it just spread in a way that we never would have anticipated. His name was Tim's influence having across the organization. So my message in all of that is, don't look for a top down to connect the dots and prove something out, to find these ways that your project will impact the business. A lot of times it's those boots on the ground guys who really know what they can do with it, and they become your evangelists and your influencers. And what's key about that kind of mid to bottom level of the business organization becoming your influencers is there's a lot of people down there, and they get to learn how this platform can benefit them as opposed to being told. And there's a difference to that we found to be very, very successful. So if you can, find your Tims out there, the quiet researchers, and use them as your unexpected evangelists. So let's kind of pull all this together. Where are we going with this? Your number one inhibitor to a solid technology platform, to this ecosystem modernization effort, is this business adoption piece. And I want to be clear, if you don't have the right technology, then business adoption is never going to happen anyway. So this goes on the premise that you've got the right technical solution. If you need help with that, I know some people who can really work to build out that right platform for you. Everything from, what is your technologies you're using? Are your integrations, what those look like, how your data is being curated, and how it's being stored, and near real-time availability. All those pieces all come together. So you've got your great technology platform From an IT perspective, you are successful. From an enterprise piece, you've got to get it out there and used, and that adoption. And again, people by nature, it's this inertia. I'm good where I am, got what I have. And a lot of times this happens because for years we didn't have what we needed from IT. So I got my little shadow IT guy, I got my database under my desk, I'm good to go. They're not sure where they're seeing the benefits. You've got to help put the benefits specific to this piece, chase down the shadow ITs. We've all been through that process. But this inability for the business to adopt this new platform makes the project a very expensive fail. So what are we going to do? Build the trust. Face it, there are trust issues from before, from today, from yesterday, from the last 4 years of projects, from the last company where your marketing guy worked, whatever it may be, but there are trust issues. Face down their fears. Is it fear of change? Is it fear of technology? Is it fear of failure? What are those pieces? Is it fear that I'm going to lose my team to all this IT work they have to do for data validation? Tackle those, build into the project plan. And then benefits. Everybody's got to know what they get from it. What's in it for me? And part of what helps with the what's in it for me is when you build out your ecosystem modernization project plan, and you have a roadmap for that, and you're showing what it looks like and what all your deliverables, where they fit on the timeline, and when you've got you're up in the cloud, and when you've got your new fire hose hooked up. Fantastic. Meaningless points to the business though. So I think what we're really looking for from this perspective is put the business solutions on your releases. Help them understand when they get a data set, when they can do something. So a communication tool that is IT project focused doesn't have nearly as much value as if you take that project plan and flip it around and make it a business solution roadmap. And then they see where things start to connect. And you can also figure out, do you have people in the room when you're presenting this that you're not connecting with? Maybe there's a business solution that's not on there, and you need to figure out, does it belong? Are we missing something? Or is it just not out of scope, which is possible? And again, this is about being transparent. So it's opening up to the business what you're working on, sharing the good stuff, the bad stuff. I've been in enough IT project sessions where they are communicating status to the business, and it is just all rosy, sunshine, rainbows, moving along. And then the day something's due, reality hits, and you finally fess up that things aren't going well. It doesn't work. So you've got to be more transparent. What's actually going well, what's not, what's working for you. So again, the big inhibitor, business adoption. What do we do about it? You got to earn the trust of your business. You got to fight their fears and leverage those influencers. Find the Tims out there. Find the ground up influencers who are going to help change the course of this initiative. And those